But it is completely symptomatic, this particular thing of the council professional silos. You know, you've got your delivery teams, one of them's to be the traffic fire, and one's rising out housing. But at the neighbourhood experience end, it's all one thing about quality of life. And there's a huge opportunity to sort this problem now because buses can turn around around Friggin station. And they're not going to bother anyone more than the train station. So that, you know, hence the need to join things up.
That kind of fragmentation being described on a more prosaic issue leaves us in a situation where you could have a street cleaner telling you that they are responsible for this section of the pavement, but not this one. And that they can clean here, but they can't go through this gate and clean there. So this kind of thing is, it's in terms of delivering service, it's utter nonsense. It's a nonsense.
You've got to be like the AZZ, where there's a bit around each post.
No, that's, I mean, and part of this work is about recognising that.
Yeah.
You know, and recognising that we do work in silos. And even internally, when people like myself, I don't have operational responsibility, so I don't have responsibility for base service. What I do have responsibility for is working across base services. So I see some of that silo working, and it's, hopefully from today we might identify some key areas that you would like us to start thinking about working forward and how to make some change.
Having talked a little bit about the kind of difficulties and barriers posed by these kind of fragmented lines of responsibility, one of the things that I wanted to say here was that actually, I'm sure on paper, all of these services should be delivered. So in fact, and it again comes back to my thinking about taking responsibility. My experience is that actually the level of service which on paper should be there is not happening, and that there are quite simple things that even before you looked at how could we actually change the service that we have in place, you could raise the bar considerably by just making sure that that service is delivered. And my personal experience is that there are, unfortunately, people in the service, whether they're at Tower Hamlets homes or Tower Hamlets, who are, how can I put this? I would consider them as part of the problem because they are either unwilling or unable to respond effectively when you go to them and say, this is the service that we should be getting and this is the one that we are in fact getting. And the two don't match up.
Quite a big piece of this work is about having service standards. So saying, as a minimum, this is what we will deliver in this stage. And later on, Lorna will talk about this notion of labelled agreements, which is starting to come through. And we're one of the pilot areas in the Valley State for that. We can talk about that. That is absolutely wrong in saying what are the standards that you can expect that we've got written into our service plans. So they're not there. And actually, are we meeting those standards? And if we're not even meeting those minimum standards, how can we think about moving it to it?
I'd like to just give one example. Earlier this week, I was actually talking to Mushtaq about this. Earlier this week, I saw one of the charge hands on the estate using his emergency key to let somebody into one of the blocks so that they could deliver flyers. And I picked them up on this. Now, this might sound like just a very small thing, but actually what it is, that is somebody who works for the council, whose job is to make sure that those stairwells are clean, which seems to be quite a challenge as it is. Invariably, flyers get dumped, they become litter, they're an immediate problem. And so it's just that's just one small thing, it's one small example where somebody in the chain has not really taken responsibility, not set a line where they just say, look, sorry, this can't happen. Not applied a basic level of respect and put themselves in the position of somebody who lives there. And these are the kind of small things that I see that all add up to a sizable problem, culture problem.
Okay. Do other people want to comment on that or mention
Would
it?
he think he was being helpful?
Well, he certainly thought he was being helpful to the chap who's got the job of delivering flyers.
What were the product?
I don't know, I don't care. You know,
Well, I know-
I'm not interested in the product, I'm interested in the fact that I come into
No,
my
I wonder
stairwell
why
and
he
these
did
things
it.
are all over.
I wonder why he let him in.
But I'd like to agree that there's no point having a service standard if, and I know it's probably very difficult, but if they simply ignore them in
Yes,
mind.
it's not fine.
Service standard, clean the stairwell once a week. You might luck, you're lucky if it gets, and I monitor this, you're lucky if it gets done once every 4, 5, 6 weeks. Every so often, I haven't known. But that's a very basic expectation. Once a week to clean the stairwell. I was actually told that you were so down on staff, on facilities that more attention was paid to those blocks that were really dirty, which is pretty cool, really. So, as I say, it's one thing to have the standards, but you've got to.
You've got to
Got
have
to do it.
certain elements of it. So if you're not, I talked about the shared responsibility. The responsibility on our part is if we've made a commitment to there's a standard, a service that we deliver, and we don't deliver against them, there has to be some mechanism to be able to hold us to account for not doing
Yeah.
it. And that holding the public sector or the services to account has to come from the residents, but we have to create a mechanism for you to be able to do that. So you're not having to go through, the chains of calls and services that you have to get to, which you may or may not get to by person, and it might be through the place. So, it's that, and that's where, as I said, the level of agreement is quite important.
Is there a bin in each block to put this in?
Well, my block is outside, well, they're all outside, as well. We have these, they call shoes, that they just,
Do you know in Germany you're legally obliged to clean stretch of pavement outside your house?
I didn't know that. But
Same thing in
I'm
States.
not surprised.
I'm thinking everyone should clean their own landing, basically.
Yeah. So I think that can track that. If you get snow and you steer so away from front of your house and somebody's sitting
They can.
So there's.
I mean, also, in fact, I have a neighbour who he's very elderly, he's very frail, and to expect him to be able to take care of that is not realistic. And it's also worth adding that leaseholders and tenants are billed for that service. So
Well,
in fact,
absolutely
they're
agree.
paying for a service.
And also you find if there's a level of cleanliness in the first place, then people will respect that. But if an area is immediately not looked like it's looked after, then people don't respect it. And
Yeah.
then things start to build up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But there is, I think that it's quite interesting what you're saying about the German one, because it's about what's the responsibility of the citizen. So yes, if we had standards and we did them, then it's a bit like rubbish. If you collect rubbish, we say we do it twice a week, and we do it twice a week. What's the responsibility of the citizen not to drop that rubbish in the first place, actually to our children, or whatever that might be. And that's going to be interesting, and how we get people to change their behaviours. It's what happens Harry's about. That's what's really interesting. Were there other areas? I mean, obviously, I know the stairwell is a kind of continual problem. We know there's some issues around antisocial behaviour as well. Is that something that you either feel in the area or you come across, or?